Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Derek with Mahogany Books, co-owner of Mahogany Books with my wife, Ramunda Young. We're excited to bring you to another edition of Mahogany Books Front Row, featuring actor, activist, author, Dondré Whitfield. So we're going to get into this conversation, and we're going to just be real, just have a great conversation, man versus male. I think this is going to be exciting. But what I want to do real quick is do some quick housekeeping stuff. Over in the chat, on the bottom right-hand side of your screen is your chat field. You can type in things there, tell us where you're from, what's going on, how's your day. If you can hear everything well, give us some thumbs up and everything. We also have over here the Ask a Question button, about maybe three or four links to the left of the Say Something Nice field where you can ask your questions. We're going to do a Q&A about 30 to 40 minutes into the conversation. So post your questions there. We're going to read from them and get Dondré to share with you guys. And then of course, if you want to purchase an autographed copy of Male versus Man, a green link underneath the screen that you see says purchase autographed copy. Click there. It'll take you to Mahogany Books website, and you'll be able to get your autographed copy sent to you. So again, I'm excited for this conversation. I'm Derek Young. I am one of the owners here at Mahogany Books. My wife and our daughter Mahogany Books 13 years ago as an online bookstore dedicated to selling books written for, by, and about people of the African diaspora. And really the whole idea was to be able to do stuff like this, to have conversations that was important to us, that had our values in mind, that recognize the things that we went through. And so we can have real conversations in an environment that was engaging, exciting, and just fun for us. So we started as an online bookstore. 2.5 years ago, we opened up our first bookstore, physical bookstore in Washington, D.C., Southeast, my home where I'm from, so I'm excited about that. And we've been going strong 2.5 years with the online bookstore as well as a physical space to provide people with access to incredible literature and connect them with incredible writers like our author that we're talking to tonight. So I'm not going to belay this anymore. I'm going to read Dondré's bio. We're going to get into the conversation. So best known for his role on Queen Sugar, veteran actor Dondré Whitfield is a 3-time Emmy and NAACP Image Award nominee. Off camera, Whitfield is passionate about helping address the challenges and pressures of masculine identity in today's world. He co-created the Manhood Tour, a global movement committed to encouraging and coaching men. Whitfield is also a life coach and provides counseling to married couples. He's an ambassador for Delta Airlines' annual Dream Flight and for the PGA's Beyond the Green mentoring program for youth and college students. Whitfield and his wife, actress and director Sally Richardson Whitfield, live in Los Angeles with their 2 children. So we're excited to bring to the screen my man Dondré Whitfield. How you doing, sir?
Brother, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Uh-oh. What happened?
I'm here. Sorry about that. A bit of a technical.
Okay, no worries.
I'm here.
Okay.
Right.
I was like, what did I do?
No problem. It was all me. I was trying to get rid of
no worries.
my mail so that I wouldn't be getting all these things coming up.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
It's all good. It's all good. All right. So you know what? Look, there's a couple of different ways I want to come at this. First and foremost, I have a very, so I'm going to try to make sure I include the attendees here because this is an event for them. But I'm very curious into this conversation. Like, this is a conversation me and my brothers have, me and my friends, we have all the time about our community, who we are and how we lead our community, right? And it is the concept of male versus man. I know me and my pastor, we've had these conversations in our men's group as well. So this is a real legit conversation. I want to have it just, blunt, to the point, and let's just be real, because there's some real things that, especially right now, that we need to be addressing if we want to keep the momentum going forward. And we have leaders in the community that are willing to take accountability and responsibility for their actions, right? So when I was thinking about that, the question that came to mind is your origin story. Because as I was reading it, especially in the prerequisite part of your book, you talked about who you were before and that process of growing to get to where you are now, right? Failures, the ups, the downs, the successes, all that stuff got you to this point right now. And it's helped you to understand what it is to be a man versus to just be a male, right? So I want to talk about that origin. Have you talked about that origin story and how that got you to this point right now? Because I think that'll be really, really important for the audience out there.
Well, growing up in Brooklyn and having to fight every day, there are a lot of people who are surprised to hear that I grew up in that environment, because my first job on the most watched show maybe in television history, The Cosby Show, was me playing a kid, a 13-year-old kid who had great sweaters and came from this, this great suburban background, and my life was completely contrary.
Right.
My father was a street hustler, was in and out of jail for most of my adolescence. So every day of my existence was having to, as they say in the streets, throw my hands.
Right.
And so my life was completely contrary to everything that I played on television. And so I affectionately have named, and I talk about this in the book, there's two versions of myself: Brooklyn Dre and Disciple Dondré.
Right.
Disciple Dondré is the man who leads. It's the one that you're having a conversation with right now. It's the one who makes the decisions for my home with regard to my children, my wife, how I attempt to elevate my community, the conscious being that I am.
Right.
Brooklyn Dre is the one who will get into his feelings and get angry and want to torch the village. Every solution to every problem is a fight. So the equivalent to having one tool in the tool belt, which is a hammer, and if the only thing you got in your tool belt is a hammer, everybody looks like what? A nail. So I talk about this in the book, and in really looking at the evolution of what I was becoming, all of the skill sets that I learned in the street were all the things that helped me in the street, but that hurt me in my home. So I can't use Brooklyn Dre in dealing with my wife. I can't use Brooklyn Dre to deal with my children. I can't use Brooklyn Dre to determine, what my trajectory for life looks like. In the prerequisite, and just so you know, I named the prerequisite. Normally, when you write a book, it's called the introduction.
Right. Yep.
Many people, what I've learned is many people skip past the introduction because often it's about the author pontificating about something that you really didn't need to know about, you really don't care about. You just want to get to the meat and potatoes, pardon the pun as a vegan, but you want to get to the meat and the potatoes of the book and go right to chapter 1, right? I named it the prerequisite because it's the portion of the book that you need to read before you get to chapter 1, because the prerequisite tees up where you're going and why you're going there. And in that, I talk about the loss of my best friend, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it yet, but the loss of my best friend, who my daughter is named after, changed the course of my life. It made me see what can happen when you leave your post as a man. The devastation that I had to feel in enduring that was something that still, as an author, I still can't put into words exactly what that does to you. And I think that teed up really my appetite, my passion, my obsession, really, to constantly matriculate myself into manhood. And so that's how all of this came about.
Okay. So, I was wondering that too, because right at the beginning of the book, you most likely have an introduction, right? Actually, one of my favorite books, and I want to talk to you about this too, because it's something that you mentioned in the book. He called it his manifesto, right? And I really like that because really, and I tell people, when I recommend the book to them, I'm like, if you just read that manifesto, you're good, right? Like all the other stuff, the 20 other 30 chapters is fantastic, but it's that prerequisite, that manifesto, that you have to read. Because what was very interesting was it laid bare that you were willing to, regardless of the success, there were failures that you experienced that helped to pave the road for who you are now. Right?
Yes.
It was recognizing, being accountable, being responsible for those things that put you on a path to be able to be a leader.
Yes.
And I thought that was really, really important for any person, because, as guys, we get into our head and, we don't want to admit the mistakes. We don't want to identify that, we have weaknesses. We want to walk around with this mask on. And, when you're get into a position where you can actually, be in mentorship with another guy, you won't allow your wall down. So you can't really learn and you can't really grow. I thought that was awesome of you to say, hey, at the very beginning, this is who I was, right? Again, that origin story. This is who I was. These are some of the mistakes I made. This is one of the hardest moments of my life. And this is why I was able to turn it around, because I just couldn't take that pain anymore. I had to be responsible for some of my actions, right? Yes. So I just thought that was, I really, really like that. So I don't want to spoil it, because but I encourage everyone to please, read that prerequisite, especially as a guy. You have to sit with it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to be able to be honest with yourself in this conversation, right? And so that was okay. So I definitely wanted to do that. So let's do this before I start asking too many specific questions. And you do talk about it here. What was that moment where you really knew that you had to write this book?
When I reconciled with my father after 20 years of being estranged from him at 26 years old, in my male self, and allowing Brooklyn Dre to speak for me. My father was a convicted felon. And like I said, had been in and out of jail my entire life. And big me was finally going to be able to speak for little me. And I told my father, I threatened my father. I basically told him if I ever saw him again that I can't say what I said because I don't speak that way anymore. But one of us was going to die and it wasn't going to be me. And 20 years had gone by. I was 46. My daughter came and sat next to me. She was 11 years old at that time. And she simply came and sat next to me and asked me one simple question, which was, do you know where your father is? And as a father, it was devastating to know that all the things that I was teaching my children, and I have two, my daughter and my son, all the things that I was teaching them really didn't matter, because what I was teaching them, which was to give people grace, to have empathy for them, and that all people deserve second chances, all of those things, I was really saying, give everyone all of those things except one person who you deem unworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And what my daughter was asking me at 11 years old was, does whatever gripe that you have with your father, you're cheating me out of a grandparent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized I had to sit with that, and I knew I had to correct it, but I couldn't get past the way I was feeling about my father. And the key to unlocking my pain
Mm-hmm.
and allowing my anger to subside was the fact that I realized that my father couldn't father me because he himself was unfathered.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, my father couldn't give me something that nobody ever gave him. And in that moment, I realized that I didn't need the relationship in order for me to become a son to my father, or for my father to become a father to me. But as a godly man, as a righteous man, I realized that my new assignment with my father was to become a brother to my father as a righteous man. When I finally got to that space and reconnected with my father, it was incredible. My father had also become a man of faith. We were of two different faiths, but we were two men of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why my relationship with my father was so key for me was because we are two parts DNA, one from our mother, one from our father. If you don't understand both your parents, you don't truly understand yourself, because there's certain behavioral things that we just get chemically from them. When I got to that space, I said, wow, you know what? My father would have become a great man had he had great information and instruction.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to do was to write a playbook for manhood that, if my father had access to it, would have given him an opportunity to become a great man. So when I got to that space, that's when I knew I had to write Male versus Man. I have I have an 11-year-old son. Thankfully for him, I'm in his life to be the drill instructor for what manhood is.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I wasn't here?
Mm-hmm.
Where would my son get that? Many people would say, well, he would get that from his mom. Wrong. My wife can't teach my son how to be something she's not.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 15-year-old daughter. I can't teach her how to be a woman. Why? Because I'm not one.
Mm-hmm.
So thankfully, I have my wife, right? That's her assignment. If I didn't have my wife, I would have to hand my daughter over to one of my sister friends to say, hey, I'm dropping my daughter off to you from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. I need you to give her the download. And I'm going to bring her back here on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, so that you can do what's necessary in order to give her the supplements that she needs, because she's at a deficit because she doesn't have her mother in her life to teach her how to be that, right? Mm-hmm. So again, if I can't teach my daughter how to be a woman because I'm not one, then my wife can't teach my son how to be a man because she's not one. So if I wasn't in my son's life, Male versus Man would also be the playbook for his manhood and showing him how to further matriculate into it. But really, my father was the biggest reason why I knew I had to write this book. If he had had this book, my father would have become a great man had he had a playbook for his manhood.
I mean, was all that is incredible. And what I find, the part of that I can immensely relate to is how children hold a mirror to you.
Yes.
Right? In those moments that, you think you're teaching and you're doing all these different things, but there are times they hold that mirror up to you.
Yeah.
say, hey, you're telling
Often.
me, but right, but are you doing this yourself?
Yes.
And again, you have to make a decision whether you just say, hey, well, just do as I say, not as I do.
Not as I do.
Or if I'm gonna be responsible and accountable to this young person and be the man of my house. And hey, you know what? I gotta suck it up. I gotta fight through it.
Yep.
But because it's more important than me, it's about this community, this village that I'm leading.
Well, let me take that a step further. So in my book, I talk about how men have to be the model that they want their house to mirror, right? Whenever either of my children do something that I don't approve of, what I used to do was I used to speak directly to that and say, hey, stop that. What are you doing? Stop that. I don't do that anymore. What I now do is whenever my children do something that I don't like, the first thing I do is ask myself, is there something that I'm doing in my behavior that's giving permission for them to do that? Right? Because I am the model. I am the standard bearer of my house. I say this often. I even say this in the book, and it's nothing controversial because if my wife was sitting right here, she would tell you the exact same thing. I am the leader of my house, not because I tell people what to do, but because I show people what to do. I do the things that most people in my house are not doing in every area. And whatever area I'm lacking in, whatever area I'm at a deficit in, I make sure to strengthen myself in it so that, again, I can serve as the model that my house can mirror. I am the standard bearer of my house. That is the reason why I am the leader. My wife is from the south side of Chicago. I can't tell her what to do. I got a proud Black woman who has enough of her own sense of self and worth that says, I got this. So I can't tell her what to do, but all day I am showing her what to do. I'm showing her how to do it. And 8.5 times out of 10 in my house, my wife will usually follow suit with what she's watching me do. I know that devastates a whole bunch of people because they're like, my wife is incredible. And not that that takes away from everything that she does that is incredible, but everything that I do, again, serves as the blueprint for what my house does. And that includes my wife.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a perfect segue into this next question, because I recall when me and my wife were going through premarital counseling, our pastor had us read a book called, Liberated Through Submission. It was the book that we had to read.
Great word.
And it was an eye-opening book. And the thing I took away from it, and I saw immediately in your writing, was the term servant leadership.
Yes.
Right. Being a servant leader.
Yes.
And it was a term that I had just learned of in that context, but I had come across in a book I read called Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton. It talked about, again, men, we always have this thing, well, I'm a G, I'm this, I'm that. But usually it's a very self-serving perspective.
Totally.
And so the question that he was posing in his manifesto was, what are you willing to die for?
That's right.
Is it just something that's just benefiting you?
That's right.
Or is it something that's going to benefit your community and leave a legacy? Right. And so those two things connected, and it became a huge light bulb for myself in, how I wanted to lead my life. But that book was, and talking about Liberated Through Submission, was a huge eye opener, because it wasn't talking about my wife, talking about me.
Yes.
Right. It was talking about how am I submitting myself to my family, to my wife, to lead them so that they would then in turn submit themselves to my leadership. But it began with me first. So
absolutely.
I wanted you to talk about, so you began there. So I wanted you to kind of go into this concept of servant leadership.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to pick up where you opened up, which was in the title, which was submission.
Mm-hmm.
Submission is such a great biblical word. It is such a great word that is applicable to everything that we do in life. I just talked about how I am the model that my house mirrors. And there will be a great many people who, will take from that, oh, so you lead and your wife doesn't? Absolutely not. That's not what that suggests at all. I model submission to my wife because I want my wife to submit to my word. The only way for me to model that is to do what? To submit to her word, right? So there are often times where my wife will have something where, there's a great many times where I will put something in front of her and say, babe, what do you think of this? Right. And in my heart of hearts, I think that I'm right on the button and I feel like I got it all. And then my wife will submit something to me that I have to submit to because she sees something that may be in my blind spot. So I have to be able to submit to that as a man. Well, that's the biggest form of strength, is being able to submit, because in everyday life, in modern society, we think that the word submit means to give up, or we think that the word submit means to quit, when really submit means to give over. Right? It doesn't mean to give up. It just means to give over. So I give this over to my wife because I recognize her wisdom. I recognize her knowledge, right? I recognize her direction, right? My wife is a director. Okay. So yeah, she has great direction, right? So I have to submit to that. In being a servant leader, I should have started this conversation off by teeing up the fact that male versus man, the powerful messaging about male versus man is that males look to be served while men look to be of service, right? It's one of the great foundations of what this book is about. As a servant leader, my job is to lead, but not in the sense of telling people what to do for the sake of my own ego. My job is to be a leader by being a servant to those around me. As a man, as a married man, my first job in being a servant leader is to serve the woman and children in my house, right? And then it extends past my home, because now, as a servant leader, my job is to serve the women and children in my life, right? I talked also about how men are supposed to be the walking tree of our house and our community, right? So think about what a tree does. A tree offers, trees were the first shelter of life, right? Tree offers us shade, right? If we didn't have that, we would burn up at the hands of the sun, right? So a tree covers you. A tree offers covering, right? So as to protect you from the harmful elements of the world. What else does a tree do? A tree, when you give it poison, it gives you back what? Oxygen, which allows you to breathe better, right? What else does a tree do? A tree offers us fruit, which is what? Food. So now a tree offers us covering. A tree allows us to breathe better. A tree gives us the food that we need that allows us to sustain ourselves, right? So a man has got to be the walking tree of his house and his community, right? And all of that fits into the guise of being a servant leader. So that's the reason why I had to cover that in the book, because often we think that manhood is about all of the things that we've been taught, which is really masculinity and sexuality, right? How much can I bench press and how many women can I sleep with? And that has absolutely nothing to do with manhood.
I love it. I appreciate it. That's so I got two or three things.
Sister Kelly, I see you.
Please share in the comments your thoughts and everything, and don't forget to ask your questions over in the Ask a Question section. You can just hit the plus button, and it'll prompt you to post your questions there.
And who is that? Is that Renita? Renita, Sister Renita, I see you.
So there's a couple of places I want to go from there. I think the one thing I want to talk about. So for people, guys who are reading this, who aren't married, who aren't in a relationship, how do you make it? And you began to touch on it. But how do you make it fit for them when they don't directly have a woman in their life that they're there to provide for, to serve?
So at some point in your life, just know this, that many people who are missing, and I touch on this in the book as well, in talking about how men have to understand what their purpose in life is.
Mm-hmm.
I have often said that acting is my passion, but activation is my purpose. Many people get that confused.
Mm-hmm.
They think that because I've had a 36-year career as an actor, that for many people that would be like, well, that would be what my purpose is, because people see what you do in life and you make a lot of money and you do all that stuff. That would be my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But that just speaks to what my passion is. My purpose is, think of it this way. When God created me, what was his intention around my creation? And it wasn't to be Robert on the Cosby Show. It wasn't to be Remy on Queen Sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What I do as an actor provides me a platform. So now the question becomes, now that I have that platform, what do I use that platform for? Right?
Mm-hmm.
My platform, my acting gives me a platform, and that platform suits my purpose. If I didn't have a purpose, nobody would listen. If I didn't have a platform, nobody would listen to me. But why should I listen to you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But because I have a platform, that gives me 5 minutes. People give me the grace of 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know that dude has an act. Okay, so I'm gonna sit here. Let me see what this dude has, right? So my platform gives me 5 minutes, but my content gives me 50.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see Sister Renita say, Dondré's dropping all kinds of nuggets of wisdom over here, you see Sister Kelly go, you better preach, Brother Dondré. That's content.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't have content, they would have left.
Mm-hmm.
They go back to watching CNN and MSNBC, right? But because the content is there, they're going, okay, I'm going to sit here for this conversation because I'm actually learning something in this,
Mm-hmm.
right? The platform is the thing that brought them here.
Mm-hmm.
I know him from 36 years of his passion.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm listening to his purpose, which is the content,
Right.
right? So all of this is really just about understanding that as a man, even if you don't have, to get back to your question, if I don't have a wife, if I don't have a child or children, then why do I need to subscribe to the notion of everything that you talk about in your book? Every man's life, when he was created, the intention behind his creation was to be a servant to all women and children in his life. You have a mother, so your job is to speak to and serve the women that look like your mother, the women that look like your own biological sister. So it doesn't make a difference whether you have found the queen in your life
Mm-hmm.
that you share a bed with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your job as a man, as a king, is to cover all the women and children in your life, whether you're married to one or not.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So perfect. So here's the thing. I don't know how you're going to answer this. I'm hoping it's a really good question, but it's almost like the meaning of life question. But I really want people, as they're listening here and they watched this this conversation over and over again on our site at MahoganyBooks.com. You touched on masculinity and sexuality is what drives men, not men, males.
Males.
Right. And passion, purpose. You know, I remember I was a young teenager when my grandmother told me this. She said, my uncle didn't become a man until he was 40-something years old. Right. This is something she said to me. And I don't know if I was 12, 13 years old. And I was like,
what does that mean?
like, dude, you're 40-something. Like, to have your mama,
right,
her own child.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I knew from that point, I never wanted to be referred to in that light. Right.
Right.
But how does a God make that leap? That, you know, they see what's possible, right? They see people, they see you, they see other guys in their life, they see people who could be mentors that are doing great things.
Yes.
But every day they got life expectations. They got bills to pay. They might got a kid to feed.
Yep.
They got to try to figure out how to keep their job. They got to navigate race and racism and all this craziness. How does a person make that switch from just being a male and just being preoccupied with protecting myself, machismo, and what it is, conquering women, right?
Yes.
It's essentially what it is.
Yes.
How do you go from there to here?
Well, two things. So first of all, what we have to remember is that any brother who thinks that that he is the higher being is not only in trouble to himself, but those around him. And by that, I mean, as a man, I know that I serve a God.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I serve the God that created me. But there are many brothers, many males who run around thinking that they are the highest beings in life.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are the highest, you'd have to walk around thinking that the only thing that's important is for you to be served.
Mm-hmm.
If I know that I serve a God, which I do, my job, my life is dedicated to serving the God that created me, right? And not about serving myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the first thing. Knowing that you serve a higher being for a higher purpose, right? First thing. Second thing, every single day I end my day with going to one of my favorite places in the house after my children are down, my wife is down, and I sit quietly. And I allow the download that I feel like God is trying to send me. It's only when we remain still when we can truly hear God. When we're moving about and we're busy, particularly with our distractions, whether it's our cell phone or, you know, it's all the other ancillary things in life, we busy ourselves with those things. We usually busy ourselves with distractions because we don't want to deal with the pain of dealing with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we deal with all of those distractions. We can't hear God's download. God's download is literally buffering while we busy ourselves with all of the distractions,
Mm-hmm.
right? The only way for me to truly hear God and the download that he's sending me is to sit still. And when I do that, while that's coming in, what I then do is I review my day kind of like an athlete reviews footage.
Mm-hmm.
I examine my performance of the day. The first thing I do is affirm myself. Oh, wow, that was good. Okay, yeah, all right. Good. Because affirmation is the greatest gift that you can give yourself and give anyone else.
Yep.
So I affirm myself first and go, okay, I like that. Good stuff. Let's do more of that. Then I get to the hard work. Okay, what is it about your day that you didn't perform like you should have, where you didn't perform as a male? Was your performance more as a man? Was your performance more male-like than it was man-like?
Mm-hmm.
And I go back and forth over that footage until I'm clear about the changes that I need to implement so that I can immediately make them tomorrow. Because if you're still talking to the same version of Dondré tomorrow that you spoke to yesterday, I didn't do my work.
Yeah.
Right? So the way to matriculate yourself from maleness to manhood is for you to understand, one, that you serve a higher being for a higher purpose, and two, for you to understand that you have to review the performance of self every day in order for you to quickly matriculate into the higher form of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get to that space. Without doing that, without examining that, many brothers that that I've described as being male, they run from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They run from the truth, particularly as it pertains to self. They can deal with the truth about other people, but they can't deal with the truth of self,
Mm-hmm.
right? As a man, you have to scuba dive in truth. You got to get your gear on and be comfortable being uncomfortable by swimming and being in the deep dive of truth every single day. That's what men do. That's what separates us from our male counterparts.
So this is perfect segue because we have a question here from what is
Sister
the
Kari Jordan?
so I have another one here. I cannot figure out Emeka.
Okay.
I have a question here from Emeka.
Okay.
It says, how can men be vulnerable to each other and expressing their fears, hurts, and goals without being seen as weak?
Man.
Touching on that, that question.
Great question. So first of all, you have to know who you're friends with. I think the saying has been, show me your closest 4 or 5 friends and I'll show you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you examine your closest 4 or 5 friends and you know that you can't cry in that crowd,
Mm-hmm.
you got the wrong friends.
Mm.
You got the wrong friends. Because crying, my brother Jason Wilson, I actually spoke to my brother today. He wrote a great book called Cry Like a Man. And we had a conversation today, as we often do, bouncing certain things off of one another. And one of the things that is missing from the cheat code to being a whole man
Mm-hmm.
is being able to cry. The reason why our sisters outlive us is because they have the permission to be vulnerable with each other and to cry in each other's company.
Mm-hmm.
Men do not have that permission.
Mm-hmm.
And so subsequently, here's what I want everyone to know. Crying is the emotional throw up of life.
Mm-hmm.
If you eat something bad, your body is intuitive.
Yep.
It will say, whoa, this is poisonous. There are toxins in this. We got to get this out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it will make you regurgitate for the sake of getting rid of those toxicities, right? And allow those toxicities to pass out of your body. Crying is the emotional regurgitation of life because it allows toxins that are being housed in your body to make their way out. But often we cut our crying off, and so subsequently we allow ourselves to keep housing all of those toxins in our body.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that does is it slowly but surely kills us.
Mm-hmm.
Because we never allow those toxins to pass through our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We house them in there. And so subsequently, yeah, at 55, our dude died. What? The dude was 55 years old.
Mm-hmm.
60. He died. What? This dude was only 60 years old. How could he? Because he never allowed himself to get rid of the toxins that were not meant to be in his body. And crying is one of the key ways that we allow those things to pass through our body. So what you have to do is you have to build a circle of brothers, a band of brothers that says, brother, I got you. Not only is it okay for you to cry, I insist. Because not only is that not a mark against your manhood, but I'm going to go a step farther than that. It actually is a mark toward your elevated manhood,
mm-hmm.
that you would allow yourself to cry in front of your brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Our brothers have got to build a safe space for them to be able to do that, because that's crucial in being healthy in life.
So, look, I mean, that right there, that metaphor, that the way that you package that is,
and not just the bad things.
Not
just crying about the bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever a kid? I was a kid, and I remember watching television and seeing white people crying when they were happy.
Mm-hmm.
That freaked me out.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what's wrong with these people?
Mm-hmm.
How can you possibly cry when you're happy?
Mm-hmm.
That is the true fullness of sifting through all of your emotions. That is safety in saying, I am free to express myself emotionally in any way that this comes out. So let me give you an example. Every single day, and this happens almost every day, at one point or another, my son will find me in the space that I'm occupying in the house. And he'll come to me, no words. Hug me, I hug him. We're like patting each other. And he just says simply, Dada. He's 11 years old. And that's it. We'll break from our embrace. He'll walk out of the room. And as I'm watching him walk out of the room, I am in tears.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I'm crying for, while that was such a beautiful moment, I'm crying for little me that never got that.
Mm.
So this beautiful moment that I'm sharing with my son allows me to further see what a deficit I was in when he was his age. So I'm crying in two parts. I'm crying over the beautiful nature of the exchange with my son. And then I'm crying over the devastating nature of me being at such a deficit when I was his age, because I never got that from my father.
Yeah.
So we got to allow ourselves the fullness of being able to release those things emotionally and still be safe, and not judge ourselves harshly because we feel like, you know, all the things that we learned says that manhood isn't worthy of you crying. I don't do that. I don't do that. That's for women. That's why they live longer than us.
Look, so I just gotta say, if you enjoyed that, you gotta read this book. Like, this, you just put it down. I really do appreciate that. Now, I'm just wondering, I know we run up against time. We really should have turned it into a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah.
So, like, there's just so
sounds like part 2 is coming.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to get.
I see Sister Kai Jordan over here. She says, what do you think about, some of the takeaways for women, reading this book? Kari Jordan, excuse me. Sisters, I wrote this book for you too. This is so that you could properly identify the difference between a male and a man, because many of our sisters have been taught that men are the guys who have great pecs, that, you know, they got great pecs, they got hair on their face, they're wearing the accoutrements of success, you know, of accomplishment, like jewelry, they're driving a nice car, they've all of those things. That has absolutely nothing to do with whether you are in relationship with a man or not.
Mm-hmm.
All that says is that this particular brother has applied his skill sets to specific things in his life that allow him to get a paycheck. And that's it. Has absolutely nothing to do with whether he is a man who is dedicated to serving the women and children in his life. And subsequently, that's why many of our sisters are inappropriately partnered, because what they've been sold is the bill of goods that says, as long as this brother has a great job, as long as he has benefits, as long as he's got great pecs, as long as he has wearing what I call the uniform of a man,
Mm-hmm.
right? The pecs, the jewelry, all of that stuff, the facial hair. Girl, he's fine. Girl, look at his hair. Girl, look at what he's got. All of that stuff. That's just the uniform. But really, is he a man in the areas that it counts the most, which is his dedication to being a covering to the women and children in his life? That's the area that matters most.
Mm-hmm.
So this book allows them to know whether they're in the company of a male or a man.
I'm trying to recall, it was somewhere in this, and I think it was chapter 1. You were talking about this exact thing here. And the way you laid it out, it was about the success of a person versus the accomplishment.
The accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes. So accomplishment is about what I just talked about, right? So accomplishment is, I coach a really famous singer-songwriter. He's won 8 Grammys. And I said to him very early on, as we started getting into this space, he had a few addictions, both alcohol and substance, and infidelity in his marriage. And so I served as his manhood coach. And I said to him, these 8 Grammys that you've won, they don't impress me. Because really, if I learned all of the skill sets that you have, I could do the exact same thing. You applied your skill sets in an area, and sometimes you probably applied them in a way where you were neglecting all the other areas in life that you needed to take care of also. Mm-hmm. So you neglected the woman and the children in your life in order for you to just be accomplished in this area. Mm-hmm. So your 8 Grammys don't impress me. If you want to impress me as a man, you'll take care of your wife and your children. You'll become a man that is dedicated to taking care of further the women and children that are in the cipher of your life. Mm-hmm. That's how you will impress me. Mm-hmm. A success is a person. Accomplishment is speaking to a specific area of life where we go out and we triumph. Success speaks to the fact that I am able to have a life where I take care of my wife, take care of my children, and have a life of accomplishment as well. That is success. That is success. That's when you can truly call yourself a man of success. When you have the area of accomplishment and you have the dedication to taking care of your life with your wife and your children, and all of those things are married together, that is success.
Incredible. I'm loving it. I'm gonna try to squeeze in another question here. What is your perspective of pride as a man now versus your past? Does it come with growth and This question comes from Felicia Parker.
Pride as a man. So my pride comes in something completely different. That's really void of the ego of self. My pride in being a man is doing what I'm doing right now, talking to our folks and knowing that somebody's going to come away better than before they got here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pride that I take as a man. The pride that I take is knowing that I elevate my wife, that my wife is a more powerful sister queen than she was prior to coming into my life. The pride that I take is knowing that the children that I am about to release into society are going to be the kinds of citizens that help build a nation, right? That help further birth a nation rather than citizens that burn it down, right? So that's the pride that I take in being a man. All of those other things, like I don't take pride in, whether I bed, 20 or 30 women. Those days are over. I'm dedicated to one sister, and that is it. I know that my manhood is not tied to whether I go outside my marriage and bed any others, create any children outside of my marriage, bench press 300 pounds, any of that stuff. Like that stuff doesn't feed me in that way. I am a spiritual, godly, righteous man who prides himself in being a man that is honoring my creation. And I know that God's intention behind my creation was for me to do all of the things that I do that helps people elevate themselves and that helps males matriculate into manhood. That's what pride is for me. All of those other things that speak to my flesh just don't speak to me anymore.
I love it. We got a co-signer here down here. We got Kenneth McCracken saying, real talk. This is what's up. Kelly says, God bless you and your family, Brother Dondré. I'm excited to pick up your book as well as share it with others. Natalie, she actually has a question here. She says, who do you suggest holds the man accountable when regression takes place? And we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'd like to hear you answer that real quick.
Other men. So I literally have been talking about this, and I'm planning a march, actually a rally of fathers. I haven't announced it yet, but so you guys are sort of getting a sneak peek here in California, and I wanted to do it nationwide, but I wanted to make sure. I thought that it would be irresponsible of me not to be able to have hands-on everything in each city. And so what we're going to do here in Los Angeles is I am putting together a rally of fathers, all fathers, black, white, brown, Asian, red, doesn't make a difference. So all fathers on Father's Day standing for equality and justice for black people. Men have to begin to hold men accountable. Like I was talking to my brother Jason Wilson today. You know what I'm tired of hearing about? I'm tired of hearing about gangsters in our community. I'm done with it. And here's why. We are quick to pick up a gun to kill ourselves. But all of this where we had folks talking about, yeah, and this cracker did this and they did that and so and so and so forth. And then police officers are wide open in the streets and nobody got killed. So all of this gangster talk about how we should kill these white folks, we should kill these crackers, and they kill it, and nobody got killed. Now, I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I'm not calling for anyone to die. I truly know in my heart of heart, that is not the answer. But what I want to stop is all this gangster talk. Mm-hmm. We're going to come up in our communities, wear different colors, kill each other. But then when other people are killing our people,
not protect ourselves. Yep.
Ain't nobody cocked back a hammer yet. Ain't nobody worn a color yet. They got the color blue on out there, but ain't no blood ever. That's another blue out there. I ain't seen no blood kill nobody, no blue out there. Right? And this isn't a challenge to my brothers. This is accountability to my brothers. My brothers, listen. All of this self-hatred, all of this hatred for our people is corny. It's ridiculous. Stop this. Stop it. We're done with it. We're tired with it. Anything. Listen, if you got a beef with anything or anybody black, you should be ashamed of yourself. Of all the things that we are going through right now, every single one of us should be locking arms. Locking arms. I'm calling for every single person in our community. You got a beef with anybody black, it should be squashed. It should be done. If you are still doing that, that's like when I say, man, that's so 80s. Like, that's like, so like, you still doing that? You still beefing with black people? You're still killing black people? Like, brother, sister, what are you doing? You are wasting your life. You got folks out here that are killing us, and you still got enough time to go out here and have us kill each other? Man, you better get out of my face with that. I ain't even got 5 seconds for that. I ain't got 5 seconds to hear about how somebody is gangster. Because again, I ain't seen one person on CNN get killed that is their color, that's killing us. I haven't seen it. So I'm done with it. As a man, I got no patience for it. I'm done with it. Done. Not a single solitary second. I can't even have a conversation with a brother like that. And we always look, every brother ain't a brother because of what? Color. Okay. So when I talk about this rally, I'm not talking about colors. I'm talking about consciousness. Your brother and your sister now is going to be about whether they share your consciousness. When James Brown said, I'm black and I'm proud, he wasn't talking about color. He was talking about consciousness. Black people come in different hues. Brother Derek, we come in different shades, bro.
Yeah, man.
This ain't about our color. This is about our consciousness. If you peel back my skin, my consciousness is as black as it get. My consciousness is as black as my shirt. Feel me? Right. That's real talk.
That's what's up.
Don't be fooled by my hue. That's the same thing that white America has been doing for years. They can't see our humanity because they can't get past our hue.
That's right.
So we doing the same thing that white folks have been doing to us for centuries. I ain't talking about your hue. I ain't talking about your color. I'm talking about your consciousness. Do we align ourselves with each other because you have the same consciousness or not? I got white friends. I got white allies that real talk, I would trade in some of our folks that share our color. Real talk. I ain't playing games. I got folks over here that are allies that when you talk to them about their consciousness, man, listen, we need them. We need them. We need them on the front line with us. Because when they're on the front line, look how crazy America is. You ain't got to take my word for it. Look at CNN right now. Look at MSNBC right now. A 75-year-old man in Buffalo got pushed down. He wasn't a part of a crowd. He wasn't a part of a riot. He was solo. And he got pushed down by white, unconscious police officers. Period.
Yeah.
So if you think this is about color, you fooling yourself.
Yep.
This is about consciousness. That 75-year-old white man had our consciousness, and he was out there for black people. He wasn't out there fighting a fight for white, bald-headed white men.
Yep.
He was out there for black people. And they pushed him down because they didn't appreciate what? Not his color, his consciousness.
Yep.
Real talk, man. Stop playing games out here. We can't still be stuck in the space of where we were in the 60s and the 70s. We got to evolve our own consciousness and know what this battle really is about. And we need our white brothers and sisters. Yes, you heard what I said. White brothers and sisters. We are one race. Don't trust me. White anthropologists say the exact same thing. We are one race. My sister Jane Elliott teed it up perfectly. We are one race. We're not acting like it, but we are one race. We come in many colors. The question now becomes, are we of one consciousness? And that's it, because we are one race, the human race, period. There's no such thing as a black race. There's no such thing as a white race. Those are colors. I'm done with it. We need to be done with it. We need our white brothers and sisters to be allies with us on the front line so that we can tear this joint down. And when I say tear it down, I ain't talking about the Targets and the Walmarts. Folks are like, oh, well, the system is broken. No, it isn't. The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The question now becomes, why haven't we broken the system that was designed to do what it was designed to do? That's the question. And I know that we got off on a tangent, but real talk, as a man, this is what we got to do.
Yeah.
We gotta speak truth to power. We gotta hold fire to their feet and hold folks what? Accountable, because that's how we started this conversation. Really, that's how we got here in the first place. Accountability. We got to hold our folks in our communities accountable. Negro, are you really holding a gun to another black man? Put that gun down. Are you really sitting there calling another sister the B word? Man, get your behind out of here. And if you say that word again, I'm going to slap you. Like ain't no taste to be had in your mouth again. We got to start being men and hold our folks accountable. That's the reason why everybody has been going rogue, because ain't no accountability. Come on, man. Man, don't get me started. You done got my blood pressure. Man.
Look, hey, drink some water. But I got this is the most revolutionary thought that you can actually have.
Yes.
And this is what people are afraid to say.
Yes.
I'm glad that you said it, because, and I'm keep looking at your shirt. Men say it.
Yes.
You will know that even if this risks my life, this is what I have to do. Right.
I know this is going to risk my life, brother. Are you kidding? Calling out gangsters? You don't think that's putting my life at risk? Absolutely. But guess what? I just told you my father wasn't in my life, but guess who fathered me? Dr. King fathered me. Malcolm X fathered me. Muhammad Ali fathered me. Nat Turner fathered me. So Marcus Garvey fathered me. You understand what I'm saying?
I got you.
This is revolution. And guess what? Revolution is not monolithic. Everybody said, oh, well, we was hearing you when y'all were talking about this and y'all were talking about that. But as soon as y'all started burning down the stuff, I didn't want to hear it no more. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Because this country is deaf. And you couldn't hear us when we were speaking truth. When we were speaking truth peacefully. When we were speaking, you couldn't hear us. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, yeah, I got a bad connection. I can't hear y'all. Oh, but now all of a sudden, now that we go into the Walmart and we steal some jugs of water and some jeans, now you can hear us. Now that all of the structures are burned down and they're smoldering and there's ash, now all of a sudden you got your hearing aid on.
Yeah.
Revolution is not monolithic. We need every bit of this. We need talk. We need a plan. We need some violence. Because that's when you started hearing us when the violence came, when the civil unrest came.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, now that we got your attention, now we can have a conversation. But see, when we asked you to have a conversation, you couldn't hear. You had selective hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we started burning some stuff down, oh, now you can hear. Okay, well, great. Now sit down with me. Let's have a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Revolution is not monolithic. Every single one of those parts is extremely important in this equation.
Mm-hmm.
Talk plus violence equals revolution.
Mm-hmm. And to bring it back to exactly the point of this book, I keep looking at this shirt, male versus man. And the more men that we have trained up, we're ready to stand side by side, like you mentioned before.
Yes.
That's when when the gangsters outnumber us.
Yes.
When we outnumber the gangsters,
yes,
we're gonna fall in line.
Yes. So that's the reason why this book is so daggone necessary. You almost got me cussing out here. I don't even cuss. That's why this book is so daggone. Our number one problem in our society and in our community is that we don't build enough men that build other men.
Mm.
And so the gangsters, the males, are outnumbering us. Since when did you become a father? Look, let me tell you something, Derek. Brother, I love my son to death. Ain't no way on God's green freaking earth I'm gonna ever be afraid of my seed. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
You know the saying.
Mm-hmm.
I brought you in.
Take you out.
If somebody ever told me that my son was on the corner killing other people, I love my son to death, but I would kill my son before I allow my son to kill somebody, because I didn't bring him in this world for that. So my question is, where are the men? Where are the men that are afraid of their sons? Who is that?
Mm-hmm.
Who is the man that is afraid of his son, that says, if you don't get your natural black behind off this corner,
Mm-hmm.
give me that gun before I kill you with it?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we?
Mm-hmm.
That's why this book is so necessary, because it is a call. It is a battle cry to our men to get activated.
Mm-hmm.
It is a battle cry to our males that say, homeboy, you either get on board or you're going to catch the smackdown. Because we ain't playing. Y'all have been violating our sisters for too long, and we allowed it.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have been violating our people for too long, killing our people too long, and we've allowed it. And now that day is over. Where we at? Because it's been a battle. So the question is, it says it, male versus man. So who wins this battle?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever wins this battle gets our community.
Yep. We've been seeing it over for far too long.
Too long, man.
Long.
And I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of the brothers that I told you that helped that were surrogate fathers that fathered me, they all showed me, listen, your job is not to care more for your life than the life of your people.
Mm-hmm.
You can't care more for your life than the life of your people. That's the reason why we're in the conditions that we're in right now, because everybody's so daggone scared.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the same scared ones are talking about, yeah, revolution. Yeah, we got to kill all these. Meanwhile, have you seen anybody die? Exactly.
Hey, look,
man. Look,
this is.
Man, I'm done.
I want you to drink some water. You got to get that refill because you got to bring it down. You know, when you walk out of here, I want you to be chill, to be mad at us because we worked
my
up.
wife was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was talking to Derek from Mahogany Books.
No. these are real questions, and I love it because you're speaking the truth, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
Nothing about what you're saying that is false, that is not authentic, and
we know it's truth.
Mm-hmm.
We know it.
Yep. So
every single body that's been on this call, they all know it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows it. That's why you look. Do you see one comment in there going, "What y'all talking about?" Nope.
They're all there.
They know what it is. They know what it is. They tired too.
Mm-hmm.
Our sisters are tired. Look. The truth doesn't need an explanation. Hello. Mm-hmm. My grandfather used to say, "Anything understood don't need to be explained." Stop playing. We know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm
we
there.
Know what it is. Look, in the movie The Untouchables, when Frank Nitti was with the older dude. The older dude says, he's like, "Where's all the stuff? Where's all the liquor? Where's all the?" He was like, "Okay, we get ready to do a raid." And they walk. He goes, "Where are we going?" He goes, "Follow me." They walk right across the street. They walk right across the street, and he goes, "Okay, you ready?" And he's like, "What you mean?" He's like, "We going in here. We get ready to do the raid." He's like, "In here?" He goes, "Yeah, everybody knows where it is. Everybody's afraid to go up against it. We know what it is in our community. We know where the problems are in our community. Everybody's afraid to go up against it." Mm-hmm. And that's why we're still in the position that we're in.
Right. I'm looking here at this last question that came through by Lavonda. Why are men afraid to embrace truth? And I think what you're
men aren't. Males
aren't.
Are.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Men aren't. Yep. Huge difference, sister. That's why there's a huge difference. That's why you got to read this book. You have to understand that there's a huge difference between being a male. Males look to be served while men look to be of service. Mm-hmm. I am a man all day long. I am of service all day long. I'm not afraid of truth. I walk in truth. Men walk in truth. Males walk in lies all day long.
Mm-hmm. He comes back to accountability and responsibility. Like, period. From the very beginning of this book, that's what you talk about, and I think that's fantastic. So I think we're going to wrap it up. I don't want to. We're running 20 minutes over, so I do appreciate your time. And we could be here for 2 hours. I think we do have to do a part 2 of this.
Yes, sir.
Because I think this is this is incredible, and I'm excited for your rally. Hopefully I can get out there. I would love to be a part of it, because
it will be awesome, bro. You'll love it.
Yeah, that's what's up. We need to have
got folks going part 2, please.
That's right. Yep. All right. So again, what I want everyone to do, go get this book. Click the green link underneath copy of Male versus Man. Go to Mahogany Books, get your copy today. We'll get you autographed copies sent to your home. And while we're in here, through this time of COVID, through this pandemic, we can read this book. We can have these conversations. We can start preparing ourselves and training ourselves. Because when we come out of this situation, right, we see what we're up against. We can be ready. We can start the planning, right? We can start the organizing. We can figure out how to make this thing, how to fix the situation, right? Starting in communities. So I'm excited. So last thing I want to do before we wrap up, Hope, my wife is on screen. Can she give me a thumbs up if she's still on? I want to do a picture with this book before we head out. So I don't know. I think she did it before. But I'm going to go ahead and do it. So on the count of 3, we'll take this picture. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. All right. Boom. We appreciate it. So, Dondré, man, thank you. I'm so thankful that you wrote this book. And I'm actually looking forward to a part 2, to another book, right? I think there's a lot of information that you have there that you've been developing over this time, and we really need you to share, right?
Yes, sir.
Whether it's in a book or any kind of platform you have, I think you definitely need to be speaking out more about this, because I'm right there with you. There are a lot of brothers, there's a lot of my friends who we have these conversations all the time.
Yes.
Right? And we need to stop being our own separate corners and come together, right?
Yes.
Having these conversations together, plotting and planning and organizing, mobilizing, so that we just put a stop up to all of this. So this is, again, the most revolutionary thing you can do is to put this kind of information in a book, to share with people, to share your experiences, to share your love and your passion. And I'm just very appreciative, man. So thank you so much for what you're doing. We definitely appreciate it. This
my
is
brother. It's my pleasure. Love to the Queen, Ramunda, and our Princess Mahogany.
Yes.
Give them my love. I appreciate you guys so much. I often tell folks I direct my. Some folks are like, well, where else do I go to get the book? I go look up, on Mahogany Books. Boom, they'll work it out.
That's right.
Because it's very rare that we have Black-owned businesses in a space of serving communities, but it's really rare to have Black-owned bookstores. And so I just love everything that you're doing. Our folks need it. It's really underserved. So thank you for facilitating this. It's been my pleasure.
I love it. This is our revolutionary act. This is our passion and purpose. And this is what we're going to make sure we sparking the flame as well.
That's right.
To make that happen. So we appreciate it. Thanks everybody for coming out. This has been an exciting conversation. You can continue to rewatch this conversation if you missed any parts of it. And again, go pick up your book, Male versus Man, at Mahogany Books. Click the green link below. We're going to work with Dondré, get you guys some autographed copies. And we're going to see what we can do about getting a part 2 of this conversation. Maybe a book club conversation where we can really just dig deep. You know what I'm saying? Like chapter by chapter, just kind of this stuff and have these conversations. So
love it.
This has been phenomenal. All right. Peace, everybody. We appreciate it. Take care. Be safe out there.